Okay. So for the people listening to the recording, I just started a few minutes late, but inshallah, you can listen to this is still review, so you can listen to the previous video. Anyways, وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ وَالْمَلَكُ صَفًّا صَفًّا. So tafwid and ta'wil both are okay. The objection that I was going to mention was that people say that ta'wil is not okay. But that's not the practice of our ulama, that is not the practice of our scholars, that to say that doing any type of ta'wil is inappropriate or something like that, that's definitely not the case. Okay, وتأكل التراث أكلا لما تحب sorry وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى, that on the day that the Jahannam will be brought forth, and I shared that narration in which Jahannam is said to have 70,000 like chains around it. You know, like you might have like a leash or like a bridle or bridle. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, on like a horse. So similarly, Jahannam will have 70,000 of those, and each of the 70,000 will have 70,000 angels, holding back Jahannam and keeping it under control. يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى. On that day, that man shall remember, and how will his remembering of how will his remembering benefit him at all? يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي, and he will lament and he will say that if only I had prepared for my life. So now this is, as we said, I think the analogy that I gave was that, or the example was that, people say that, the ulama, the tullabul ilm, they're kind of like wasting their time because they're not like going to be ready for their future, and they're going to be in like the poor financial situation and stuff like that. But we see here that the words of the kuffar is that they're attributing life to be the life of the akhirah. Okay, so if you get what I'm going, that the proper life is the life of the akhirah. So this is inshallah a tasliyah for those people who are spending their time in the path of Allah Ta'ala. فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُعَذِّبُ عَذَابَهُ أَحَدٌ وَلَا يُوثِقُ وَثَاقَهُ أَحَدٌ. On that day that none shall be punished the way that he punishes, or they shall be chained up the way that he chains up. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. O contented soul, or nafs, return back to your Lord, pleased and pleased with. Radiya, it itself is pleased, like it itself is happy, that person. Mardiya is that Allah Ta'ala is pleased with them. One tajweed note, I guess, I think I had mentioned this in ayah 14 as well, that inna rabbaka labil mirsad, that we know that the rule for ra sakina is that if there's a kasra before it, it's going to be light, and if there's a fatha or dhamma before it, it's going to be heavy. So you say, you don't say ar-Rahman, right? You say ar-Rahman, because there's a fatha before it. So in this situation, it would seem as though in ayah number 14, inna rabbaka labil mirsad, it should be mirsad. But the rule, this is like one of the exceptions to the rule, that it's not going to be light, as you might think. It's actually supposed to be heavy because of the sad after the word. Because the sad itself is a heavy letter, so it's just going to be too difficult to say light and heavy, so you just make both them heavy. Additionally, it would seem as though in ayah number 28 that I just read, it would seem that same rule, that this ra too is supposed to be light, of empty mouth. But because this is a hamza, it's not a hamza asliya, we're actually going to make this ra light as well. It's not going to be irji'i, it's going to be irji'i. We're going to sorry, I think I said, let me just, if I said it incorrectly, let me just correct myself. It's this ra here in ayah number 28 is going to be heavy. It is going to be heavy as well. Also another exception to the rule, basically. If you guys want more details about that, you can just look at Ishaq's Tajweed for Beginners. Really, really, really great book. Okay. ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. So please and please with. فادخلي في عبادي, أي فادخلي في جملة عبادي وادخلي جنتي معهم. Yeah. He says فادخلي في جملة عبادي الصالحين وادخلي جنتي معهم. Yeah, then we just went over that small ishkal that, there seems to be a narration that it seems like these words are said to the believing soul at the time of their death. And Ibn Kathir, he basically says that it could be said on both occasions, at the time of death as well as before the entrance into Jannah. Okay. Anyways, I only prepared Surah Balad today, so hopefully we don't finish too fast. And then, but inshallah. Okay, so هذه سورة okay, تفسير سورة البلد بين يدي السورة. Oh, I forgot to read this part. Anyways, okay, هذه السورة الكريمة مكية وأهدافها نفس أهداف السورة المكية من تثبيت العقيدة والإيمان والتركيز على الإيمان والحساب والجزاء والتمييز بين الأبرار والفجار. So this is Surah Al-Balad is also a Makki surah, and it's just like all the other Makki surahs that we talk about certain aqaid and certain iman, and it builds the belief of having better quality iman, as well as recognizing what the hisab in jaza is, reckoning and being questioned on the day of judgment, and what tamyiz bain al-abrar wal-fujjar, and how Allah Ta'ala will grant the abrar, the righteous individuals, Jannah, and the fujjar, the disbelievers and the people of sin, He's going to enter them into the hellfire. ابتدأ السورة الكريمة بالقسم بالبلد الحرام الذي هو سكن النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام تعظيما لشأنه وتكريما لمقامه الرفيع عند ربه ولنظار الكفار إلى أن إيذاء الرسول في البلد الأمين من أكبر الكبائر عند الله تعالى. Then the surah begins with talking about Mecca actually, and how it is the place, the homeland, the hometown of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how this is an honor for that town, and how it is basically that the kuffar who are trying to drive him out of his hometown, this is one of the min akbar al kabair. It's a huge, huge sin that they're committing. And then the surah talks about the spending of wealth, whether it be in an appropriate or inappropriate manner. Appropriate being that, of course, feeding the needy and charity and all these sorts of things. And an inappropriate manner is where these non-Muslims would spend their wealth in like adawatun nabi, that they would spend it in like basically they would just spend their wealth in just so that they could oppress the Muslims and hurt the Muslims and whatnot. ثم تناولت أحوال القيامة وشدائدها. Then we're going to talk about some sifat and some of the conditions of the Day of Judgment and its horrors. وما يكون بين يدي الإنسان في الآخرة من مصاعب ومتاعب وعقابات ولا يستطيع أن يقطعها. Okay. And yeah, okay. So we're going to talk about Qiyamah as well as بالتفريق بين المؤمنين والكفار في ذلك يوم العصيب. And we're going to talk more about the ending place of both the believers and the disbelievers on the Day of Judgment. So, anyways, لا أقسم بهذا البلد. هذا قسم أقسم سبحانه بالبلد الحرام مكة التي شرفها الله تعالى بالبيت العتيق. So, لا أقسم بهذا البلد. Okay, I think we have mentioned this before, that the la in some of these qasams, it could either be za'idah, meaning that it's quote unquote extra, but of course, like, we don't mean extra in the sense that it's just like completely superfluous and useless or something like that. Of course, Allah Ta'ala, He chose to have this word here for a certain reason, but this is, or it could be for ta'keed. What Mufti Shafi and some other scholars say is that this la is I guess you could say in the meaning of bala, that Allah Ta'ala is saying that you all have a false notion and an incorrect understanding of something, and now I am negating that with this la. This la is a negation of that improper understanding. And then he's saying uqsimu bihadha al-balad, and we'll talk about what that false understanding may have been in just a second. So uqsimu bihadha al-balad, Allah Ta'ala is saying I am taking an oath by this blessed city. Al-balad, alif lam al-ahd, which is referring to Surah Makkah. One more thing was that another function of the la could be that it's like it's gonna sound funny, but it's like you're using the la to say that I am not taking an oath by the city as an emphasis to show that there is an oath being taken place. Meaning that, let me just explain it again, that there's no need to take an oath on the city because of like you guys already understand that the greatness of the city itself. Or just in another way, basically showing the importance of the thing that the oath is being taken on. Yeah, that's what's. Okay. He says the word al-Balad, the city, refers to the holy city of Mecca, as in Surah Al-Teen, where Allah Ta'ala swears an oath by وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, by this peaceful city. So the adjective attached to the city is peaceful. So this shows the superiority and honor of Makkah over other cities. So Sayyidina Abdullah bin Adi radiallahu anhu reports that when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was migrating from Mecca to Medina, he addressed the city of Mecca and said, "By Allah, you are dearer to me than the entire earth. If I was not forced out of this place, I would never have abandoned you." So now, like we said in Suratul, that's in Surah Al-Teen. Allah Ta'ala says, وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. But there's no mention of Al-Amin over here. So the question is, how come there's no mention of Amin? But there was in Surah Al-Teen. So now what's said is that the reason that there's no Amin is because this surah talks about a lot about the conflict between the Muslims and the kuffar. So it wouldn't be appropriate to have the word Amin in the beginning of the surah. Whereas in Surah Deen, talking about some of the blessings and sort of ni'am that the people enjoyed. Okay, what else? Okay, how is this connected to the previous surah? Actually, I was pretty amazed when I heard this. Is that in the previous surah, we talked about in the beginning of the surah, wal fajr, the coming of revelation, walayalin ashr. It could either be the last 10 nights of Ramadan, but the majority opinion is that this is the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. وَالشَّفِعِ وَالْوَتْرِ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَسْرِ. And then at the end of the surah, we talk about where is it at? يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. That, when a person, when they go to Mecca or Medina, but Mecca in this situation for the first time, they usually end up having one of two feelings, right? It's either that they're in a complete state of itminan, that a person is just like feeling so peaceful, so tranquil, and like just so content, which is how it's connected to Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna, or they have a feeling of like awe, almost, I guess you could say, right? Like they're just completely like in shock, I guess you could say, right? And they kind of seem, from what I was thinking, is that, they seem like complete opposite emotions. Like a person is in complete shock and in complete awe, or a person is in a state of like peace and tranquility. But in reality, I mean, from my own, like, just coming like from the top of my head, but although they seem like opposite emotions, they're very, very similar in the sense that, you go to Mecca, and if you either have the tranquility or you have like the awe factor, it's because of just you're very, very present in the moment. Like when you first see the Kaaba for the first time, and either you're feeling like super duper calm, or you're feeling like super duper in awe, it's because like you're understanding that what's really happening right in front of you as you're in the moment. So that's just some random thought that I had, that when a person, they go to the city, لا أقسم بهذا البلد, that they're deeply connected to the previous surah because of the يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة, or because of the وليال عشر. Yeah, sorry, that was really jumbled up together, but I hope my points came across. وأنت حل بهذا البلد. 35 minutes. وأنت حل بهذا البلد. The حل could either be two different meanings, and from one of the meanings, it splits into two. So basically, in reality, there's like three different meanings of this ayah, or the word hil specifically. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا بَلَدٍ, and you are, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, hil in this city. So what exactly does hil mean? So the first of the two meanings is that it means hil بمعنى hulul or nuzul, that you are sakin in this place, that you are living in the city and you have a right to live in the city, you have a right to abide in the city, and that it's inappropriate for what the mushrikun are doing by trying to kick you out. Okay, so hil bima'na hulul or nuzul, that basically in the meaning of you are dwelling in the city and that's completely okay, you have a right to do that. That's the first thing. The second thing is it could come from halal, and that breaks up into two, which is either like mustahil or mustahal. Okay, so either or, basically The mustahil combination, what that means is that, so the city of Mecca was, of course, revered all throughout the Arabian Peninsula, even for the like the non-Muslims or the followers of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They, of course, they had a huge respect for the city because it was the home of the Kaaba, right? Now, along with that, I mean, of course, like they called it the Haram as well, the sacred land as well, right? Now, along with that, there were certain rites and rituals which were abided by as well by these non-Muslims, by these non-followers of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which they wouldn't like cut down certain trees and plants and stuff like that. They wouldn't kill animals. They'd like kill birds, like hunt in that sacred land, correct? So, but what was it in their eyes? In their own standard of morality and in their own what they considered to be correct, basically. Even they, out of their animosity and out of their hatred for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what were they saying? It's halal for us to kill this individual in this blessed land. So they, out of their own antagonism against Deen and against Islam and stuff like that, even they broke their own code, their own code of honor, and they were just like, he's too much of a pain in our a thorn in our side or whatever. So they're like, you know what, let's just kill him too. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with the whole plot that they had about how, you can't just, if a person was to kill another person, then that requires like blood money and all that sort of stuff. So what they decided was that, let's just get a whole bunch of people, or let's just get a bunch of people from each of the tribes, and what they'll all do is they'll all just kill him collectively. Therefore, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, either you're gonna blame everyone, but in reality, that's just basically like you can't blame anyone because it's just like so many people did it at once, and basically they were trying to. The idea was that the blame would just kind of fizzle out, and then there would be no retribution. Okay, well, so that's mustahil, or whatever, and then the other one would be that this place will become, or what is it? That it'll be halal for you, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to take retribution back upon these people for all the oppression that they caused and hardship that they caused you. So basically, it's two sides of the coin, that the kuffar are making a halal to kill Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the sacred land, or it could be that it is going to be permissible for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to kill them in the sacred land. And as we know, this is what could possibly have happened in Fatah Makkah, yeah. That when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to conquer the city, he didn't shed any blood. And I think there was a few people on that day who were like hunted down because they weren't given that the amana, they weren't given that security. But basically, it was on that day that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was allowed to come back and conquer the entire Makkah and bring it under the Muslim rule. So those are the three things. Any questions regarding that? I hope that breakdown made sense. Yeah, good. I guess they kind of match with each other as well. I guess you could say like mustahil. I guess okay. We could use that for the second one, where it's permissible for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam um, to go to kill them, which would happen on the day of the Fatah Makkah, where he came back and he conquered the city. Or mustahal is that he's the one that became halal to kill, which is like I guess you can match that up with the first opinion that I mentioned of the kuffar wanting to kill him in the sacred land and break their own code of their own like law and their own code that they had, which is that you can't even kill birds over here. Like, of course you can't kill another human being. وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. Okay, so now this has a few opinions as well. This could either be, I think the top two opinions would be that this is either referring to Adam alayhi salam, that he is the father of course, of everyone. وَمَا وَلَدٍ, in that case, if it's referring to Adam alayhi salam, وَمَا وَلَدٍ is referring to all of mankind. However, I think the preferred opinion possibly, or like I said, the one or the other. There is quite a bit, but I think these are the best, definitely the top two. That Walid is referring to Ibrahim alayhi salam, And wama walad is, of course, is that he was a forefather of the people of Mecca and all these sorts of, through the lineage of Ismail alayhi salam. Wama walad is referring to his progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Other opinions were like, it could be referring to Adam, it could be referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi salam, it could be referring to Nuh alayhi salam, or it could be just referring to every single parent. Wama walad. So if it's referring to, so if we say it's Adam alayhi salam, then that's of course all of mankind, Wama walad, all of mankind. If it's Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi salam, it's referring to his children. If it's referring to Nuh alayhi salam, again it's referring to mankind because he's known as like the second Adam, right? If it's referring to Ibrahim alayhi salam, it's referring to the Arabs and their different tribes. And if it's referring to Walid, it's the Wama walad is referring to kullu mawlud, every single child, parent and child. Okay, now what does this have to do? Inshallah, we'll just get into that in a bit. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. This is the Jawab al-Qasam, ayah number 4. Right? Jawab al-Qasam. Mufti Shafi on page 795, he mentions, okay, let me just translate it real quick. So ayah number 3 is Allah Ta'ala takes an oath by all, every walid and all that is born from the walid, and then of course we just mentioned all the different interpretations. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Surely we have created all of mankind, al-insan, alif lam lil jins, fi kabadin, in a state of being in a trial and in a state of toil. So this is again very, very similar to Ya ayyuhal insanu innaka kadihun ila rabbik kadahan famulaqi, that we did it in Surat al-Inshiqaq, that Allah Ta'ala says, "Oh mankind, you are in a constant struggle, in a constant toil, in a constant state of working and going through difficulties and hardships towards your Lord, so that you could see Him and you could see your good deeds." So Allah Ta'ala again, He says a similar ayah, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, that you, O human beings, all human beings are in a state of difficulty. So let's just read what Mufti Saab says. He says the word kabad means labor, toil, or difficulty. The verse purports to say that man's life is a series of hard and toilsome works. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anh says that man was conceived and held in his mother's womb. The mother bore the pangs of birth, the hardship of sucking the mother's milk, and the difficulty of weaning. This is followed by seeking livelihood and other necessities of life with hardship. Then he endured hardship and long suffering of old age, death, grave, resurrection, accountability of his deeds before Allah Ta'ala, reward and punishment. So these difficulties and hardships are not confined to man. Other animals shared. Okay, basically so that whole narration talks about how every single stage of insan is just a stage of difficulty. And what does this have to do with, well, I don't even think I mentioned this, but that's pretty much, this ayah pretty much captures the entire theme of the surah, which we're going to talk about. Again, it's going to come up a little bit later. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ فَلَا اقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةَ, that Allah Ta'ala talks about how you have a choice between either your Islam or your kufr, and both paths are going to be difficult. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, that either path that you take, they're going to be difficult. So if you're going to endure difficulty, then you might as well just make sure you have a proper reward at the end of it, which is by accepting deen, and you can enter the Jannah. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. Anyways, what was I going to say? Some scholars say that no creation suffers as much difficulties or hardships as human beings, despite the fact that his body is smaller and weaker than other animals. Man's brain power, however, is most powerful. Therefore, he has been specifically mentioned. Swearing an oath by Mecca, Adam alayhi salam and his children, Allah Ta'ala has made it plain that man has been created in difficulties and to endure hardships. This is a proof that man did not come into existence on his own, but his creator is an all-powerful being who has, in his wisdom, created every species of creation with specific predisposition and capacity of actions. If man had any part in his own creation, he would never have allowed such difficulties and hardships for himself. So this is the part that I want to read out loud. Absolute comfort without hardship is not possible in the world. Man must be prepared to endure hardships. The oath and its subject makes plain to man that his desire to live peacefully and comfortably in the world without enduring any hardship is a silly idea and a false notion, which is not possible to happen. Therefore, it is necessary for difficulty, hardship, distress, and affliction to befall every single person, since they are bound to befall. A wise person should be in readiness to work hard for something that may help him for an eternal life. The only factor that will help him for this is faith and obedience to the truth. There was one more thing. One sec. في كبد شدة والمشقة وأصله من كبد الرجل كبدا إذا وجدته كبده ثم استعمل في كل تعب ومشقة منه المكابد. Okay, whatever. Any questions so far, or anything that I'm mistranslating? I feel like I've just been explaining as opposed to translating most of it. We good? Alrighty. Let's just keep going. I think I'll tie together the beginning and the end, and just probably towards the end of the surah, inshallah. Okay. أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم Oh no, sorry, I skipped some. أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. Ayah number 5 to 7. Okay, so now in this أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. There is a interesting story that's mentioned. Both it was mentioned in Jalalain and it was mentioned in Safwa, and I might as well just mention it because both of them mentioned it. But he says that أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد. Does man really think that no one has any sort of control over him? يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا. He says that I have destroyed myself. يقول هذا الكافر أنفقت مالا كثيرا في عداوة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. I have destroyed so much wealth in the path of just causing difficulty for the Muslims and for Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم. يحسب أن لم يره أحد. Does he think that no one is seeing what he's doing? So now, regarding the first verse, يحسب أن لا يقدر عليه أحد, is a story of a individual named قال المفسرون نزلت في أبي الأشد بن كلدة. أبو الأشد بن كلدة. I think that's how you say that name. كان شديدا مغترا بقوته. He was supposedly very, 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 very strong. وكان يبسط له الأديم الجلد فيوضع تحت قدميه. What he would do is that he would take a piece of leather and he would put it underneath one of his feet. ويقول من أزالني عنه فله كذا. And then he would challenge people to like he said that so he would, while he's stomping, like he has his foot on this piece of leather, he says anyone who's able to take it out, I'll give them such and such money, or it could be their prize or whatever. And anyone who's able to rip this piece of leather from underneath my foot, they can they'll get a prize, basically. And it said that this man was so strong that you could have 10 grown men trying to pull this piece of leather, and what will happen is that the leather will rip before his foot moves. So now, I'm not exactly sure why both places mention this story and what it really has to do with the context of this surah, but بفتح الحمزة وضم الشين المعجمة تجديد الدال محمله بالإفراد في كثير من النسخ تبعا لكثير من المفسرين في بعض النسخ الأشدين. Yeah, they just mention the story, but they don't really mention how it ties up together with the rest. Like, what exactly does this have to do with the rest of the surah? But I don't know. If you guys could think of any connection, feel free to let me know. I did look only in like some of the shorter works, so maybe in some of the longer tafsir works they mentioned like the exact purpose of why it was revealed regarding him. Anyways, أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد. Were any of you involved with the DS community in 2018? Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think it was the year 2018. Was that when I first joined DS, I was, of course, when I joined my first year, that the first batch of graduates, which includes like Mufti Sulaiman Hamid, Mo Ibrahim Hamid, Mufti Saim, Mufti Abrar Habib, and all these Mo Shomik. Who else? They're still at DS that you guys. Mo Shomik, Mo Farhan Sayed. Okay, their class, although they hadn't joined yet, they were in their fifth year. So this was also the first year that Maulana Ihtiram started teaching qira'at. So it was very very new. I don't think so like now you go to DS and every like pretty much like every other like Jahri Salah you have someone that's reading in like Warsh or they're reading in like Hamza or something like that, right? Especially like last year when my class was doing it, we were just reading every single Salah. I was just reading in Hamza and stuff. But what's it called? Like their class was the first class to do it. It was Mufti Sulaiman Hamid, Ma Ibrahim Hamid, and Mufti. Or I'm not sure if he's a Mufti, but Ma Sulaiman Patel. Those were the three students. So then, like when they first started doing it, it was like a big deal. And I remember the first time that anyone ever read in like a different qiraat at DS from the students at least was Mufti Sulaiman Hamid, and he actually read this surah. So I remember I recorded it, and like after he was done, everybody just started going like buck crazy, like everyone went like crazy, and like you hear like the loudest takbirs because everyone was shocked, like we were all in awe about like what was going on because you're hearing like all these like the imalas, and you're hearing like he's not doing ghunna in certain places and stuff like that. So in the beginning, you're just like, this is like was really, really like impressive and stuff like that. I mean, of course, it's still impressive, but like it was just so new to the community. And then of course, Mufti Saab, he gave the whole like bayan beforehand about how like the reason that it's okay to read in a different qira'at and how this is part of like our tradition and how this is how the Quran's been preserved and all that stuff. Because like now, if you go lead in a different qira'at at DS, like no one needs any sort of um, like talk as to why it's fine, right? But that was like the first time, and then Mufti Sulaiman just like I'll try to send that recording maybe, inshallah, and then you guys can listen to it. And of course, you guys know Mufti Sulaiman Hamid, very very like his qira'ah has like some like ruhani effects on you. Unfortunately, most of our qira'ah doesn't go past our throat. Okay, anyways, يحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد. He did this surah, and then he did Surah Al-Duha, which was really cool. يحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد. Um, والله قادر عليه. Okay, أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد. أيظن هذا القوي المارد المستضعف للمؤمنين أنه لا يقدر على الانتقام منه أحد. Do these kuffar really think that no one is going to be able to take them to task? يقول أهلكت مال لبدا. يقول هذا الكافر, this disbeliever, he says that أنفقت مالا كثيرا في عداوة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. That this kafir, he brags about how he was able to spend such and such wealth in opposition to the plans of the Muslims and of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Other opinions is that people have this habit of they're like really happy to show off the like how much wealth that they have just in general, although it may not be in في عداوة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. But people, like you're talking to someone outside in the parking lot by their car, and then they're just like, yeah, I got this car 2020, what is it, 2024 now, 2024, and it cost me like 80K, and then they're just waiting for you to say like, oh man, like wow, they did it for your job, because they're just like really happy to just show off the amount of money that they spent. Additionally, doesn't do infaq. What did I write that for? Or people, they might say, or I get it. يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا, and they say this to that I spent so much wealth already on my house and in my car. I can't do infaq fi sabilillah. I've already spent so much money. I don't have enough money to to give some money for the masjid donation or to help them with their fundraising project. But over here in this context, saying this is a statement of the kafir and how happy he is and how much money he spends in opposition to the Muslims and the Muslim progress. قال الآلوسي, أن يقول فخرا ومباهة على المؤمنين أنفقت معا كثيرا وأراد بذلك ما أنفقه رياء وسمعة وعبر عن النفاق بالإهلاك إظهارا لعدم الاكتراث وأنه لم يفعل ذلك رجاء النفع فكأنه جعل المال الكثير ضائعا وقيل يقول ذلك إظهارا لشدة عداوته لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. Hey, does this kafir really think that no one is seeing what he's doing? أيظن أن الله تعالى لم يره حين كان ينفق يظن أن أعماله تخفي على رب العباد. Does this guy really think that Allah Ta'ala doesn't see where this man is spending his money? Does he really think that his actions are hidden from the Lord of the world, from the Lord of the slaves? ليس الأمر كما يظنون. That is, the reality is not like what you think it is, but inna Allah raqibun muttali'un alayhi. Rather, Allah Ta'ala is watchful and is aware of what this man is doing. سيسأله يوم القيامة ويجازيه عليه. And he's going to ask him on the day of judgment and he's going to take him to task for it. ثم ذكر تعالى بنعمه عليه ليعتبر ويتعظ فقال. Then Allah Ta'ala, after these, well, that was ayah number 8, ayah number 7, sorry. Allah Ta'ala after, so 5, 6, 7 talks about these like rhetorical questions, rhetorical questions, like, which of course the answer to is that of course Allah Ta'ala is qadir over these individuals. Allah Ta'ala is able to see these individuals. Now Allah Ta'ala is going to continue that. He says, Alam naj'al lahu aynayn, that يحسب أن لم يره أحد. You don't think that Allah Ta'ala sees you and He's the one who gave you your eyes? He's the one who gave you your sight. ألم نجعل له عينين ألم نجعل له عينين يبصر بهما. That have we not given you two eyes to see from, ولسانا وشفتين, and a tongue to speak, ولسان, the tongue so that you can speak with, وشفتين, and the lips which protect your tongue, ويستعين بهما على and they help you do a lot of things like eat and drink and breathe and other things. قال خازن يريد أن نعم الله على عبده متظاهرة يقرر به كي يشكره. In Khazin, he says that the point of all this is that the blessings of Allah Ta'ala are right in front of you. They're so apparent, and they should lead one to being grateful for these blessings. One more thing that I wanted to say was, what was it? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his offense was not of an army. He didn't have like the newest technology of he didn't come to the Arabian Peninsula and he didn't have like a machine gun in front of him, right? It's not like he could just wipe them out. That wasn't his weapon. Rather, the quote unquote weapon of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was that he had kalam Allah. He had wahi, he had revelation, he had the book of Allah, he had the words of Allah Ta'ala. That was the root of the problem, quote unquote, for the kuffar. That it's not like he was coming at them, and it's not like he was just it's not like he was oppressing them. It's not like he was, putting boycotts, economic boycotts, or causing all this political strife and stuff like that. It was because he came with wahi, and wahi in itself is what? It's just quote unquote words, right? So now, if you guys want to take him down, don't you guys see this man? That this individual who's been given revelation, and you guys have this lisan, and you guys have your lips. You guys really want to take him down? Go ahead, try. I dare you. Use your tongue, use your lips, and try to refute what we have to say in our book. Try to refute what we have to say in the verses that we're revealing. You can't. You have there. So this should be a sufficient proof that you guys take so much pride in your language. You guys take so much pride in the fact that you have such a rich language, but these words themselves are a proof that this is being divinely inspired, and that this man, he's not majnoon, he's not crazy, he's not possessed by a jinn. Rather, this is something that's descending to him from Allah Ta'ala himself. This is why you should submit to him. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ, and we have shown the two paths. We have shown this individuals the two paths that they can choose. They can either choose najdain is tariq al-khair, or they could pick the tariq al-shar. They could pick the path of evil, which is kufr, or they could pick the path of khair, which is of course iman and Islam. والهدى والضلال ليسلك طريق السعادة ويجتنب طريق الشقاوة. Now I'm reading from Safwa, but unfortunately the print, like the ink, is like really, really light at the bottom of the page, so I can't tell exactly what it says. But this Najdain is basically just majaz. It's a metaphor referring to you could pick the path of accepting Islam or you could pick the path of not. قال أبو السعود قال ابن مسعود sorry رضي الله عنه النجدين الخير والشر ك Ooh, I'm not sure what this is. It's just really, really, really light. I think the letter is like completely missing. كقوله تعالى I think إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. In this is Surah Insan, I believe, that indeed we have guided him to the paths. He could either be grateful or he could be ungrateful. Um, وهديناه النجدين فلقتحم العقبة. Will he not choose the عقبة? فلقتحم العقبة. This is a little bit difficult. Has he not attempted the steep road? عقبة is the steep road. فلقتحم العقبة فهلا أنفق ماله في إنجيا. Still can't tell what that says. It's really, really like, why can't he, basically saying فَلَقَتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ, rather the appropriate thing would to do is not to spend your wealth and to not spend your time and your effort in adawa of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in opposition to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Rather, the appropriate thing to do is accept Islam and to use it in infaq fi sabilillah. فَلَقَتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ فَهَلَّا, yeah, I still can't read it. Anyways, وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةِ, and what is spending in the steep road, in the difficult path? What is that? What does it mean to spend your? Do you not realize what is the steep road? وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةِ. So now the next few ayahs are going to define that. Like, we have about 7 minutes, so I'll try to wrap it up quick. These next couple of ayahs are going to define exactly what the aqaba is, which is فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَثْغَبَةٍ يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ أَوْ مِسْكِينًا ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. So what does it mean to take the difficult road in order to, just make sure you do a lot of good a'mal and good deeds and stuff like that? What are some of the best a'mal that you could do? فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ وما أعلمك ما اقتحام العقبة وفيه تعظيم لشأنه وتهويل. ثم فسر تعالى فك رقبة أي هي عتق الرقبة في سبيل الله وتخليص صاحبها من الأسر والرق. Basically, it means to free a slave. And فك رقبة, to free a slave, أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة, or to basically to give charity or to give food on a day in which there's a lot of hunger. Obviously, it's not a specific day. It's just saying that, أن يطعم الفقير على يوم عصيب ذي مجاعة, that when people are hungry, that you're just making sure that you feed them or give them money so that they can buy food. لأن إخراج المال فيه أشد على النفس. So now these, of course, both of these that we just mentioned, of course, are a form of spending wealth. If you have a slave, that's property, that's money that that's in your possession, and if you're freeing it, you're basically losing. That's a loss of profit, right? So that's a proper way that you should be spending your wealth. أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة, or you're giving charity. Of course, that's very clear that you're feeding people from your own pocket. يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة. Yatim, a orphan, ذا مقربة. So مقربة, the three root letters are qaf, ra, ba, from qarib, qurba, all these sorts of things. So referring to the orphan that is in your own family. Qarib, to you. Maqraba, he's like related to you somehow. So you should be making sure that you're feeding the individuals who are poor in your family. Yani, you're helping those individuals out. Or miskinan, ذا matraba. Or the miskin, like the super poor person, ذا matraba, taraba, from turab, that this person, like what, his ذا matraba, the possessor of just like soil, of just like dirt. He doesn't have any sort of possession. The only possession he has is the ground that he's just sitting on outside on the street. Yatim o miskinan ذا matraba. You should feed these two individuals. وهو كناية عن شدة الفقر yeah, that's basically just a kinaya of like a saying of that matraba is just a saying for someone who has like nothing. That the only thing he owns is like that dirt that's on his body because of how he just been outside and has been homeless for so long. Okay. ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة. A, then those individuals, sorry, all the while being of those who believe and who exhort one another to persevere in faith with patience and who exhort one another to mercifulness in mercy. ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة. um, عمل هذه القربات لوجه الله تعالى. قربات لوجه الله تعالى. He does all these deeds so that he can gain the pleasure of Allah تعالى. وكان مع ذلك مؤمنا صادق إيمان. This is a proof that he is a true believer, and this is a proof of the truthfulness of his iman. قال المفسرون في الآية إشارة أن هذه القرب الطاعات لا تنفع إلا مع الإيمان. Ooh, this is a good point. That this ثم كان من الذين آمنوا, that this is a ishara, like a indication that good deeds only benefit a person. Freeing a slave or giving people food when they don't have food, they only benefit a person if they have iman. If they have iman. لا تنفع إلا مع الإيمان. وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة. أي وأوصى بعضهم بعضا بالصبر على الإيمان وطاعة الرحمن. That تواصوا means to encourage and exhort others and to motivate each other. وأوصى بعضهم بعضا بالصبر على الإيمان, to persevere in their faith. بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة, and in mercy. وبالرحمة والشفقة على الضعفاء والمساكين, and mercy towards the poor people and the orphans and the homeless and stuff like that. One point to just mention here is, what was it? I guess it kind of shows like the brotherhood of iman, that فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة. All these are referring to like one individual person doing that, one individual person freeing or feeding or all these sorts of things. But when you have iman, you're part of a larger community, a larger network, a larger a brotherhood that's built just because of the fact that two individuals share the belief of La ilaha illallah. والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أولئك أصحاب الميمنة. هؤلاء الموصوفون بهذه الصفات الجليلة هم أصحاب الجنة الذين يأخذون كتبهم بإيمانهم ويسعدون بدخول جنات النعيم. So أولئك أصحاب الميمنة. Those are the individuals of the far right, of the Ahlul Jannah, basically. That the people who have these qualities, they are the people who will be entering into Jannah and will be ويسعدون بدخول Jannat al-Na'im. Yes, they'll enter into Jannah and in the gardens in paradise. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and as for those who disbelieve بِآيَاتِنَا, in our signs and in our verses, هُمْ أَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ, those are the people of the left, of the people of the hellfire. بين الأبرار والفجار على طريق. Yeah, okay. عليهم نار مؤصدة, عليهم نار مطبقة مغلقة لا يدخل فيها روح ولا ريحان ولا يخرجون منها أبد الزمان. And for these kuffar, for these disbelievers, is a painful fire, a fire that no one can get out of. عليهم نار مؤصدة. Any questions? It's just about 9. I know I rushed it at the end. I didn't even tie the ending with the surah to the beginning. But inshallah, I guess we could do that on Monday. Or on Friday, sorry. Any questions though? No? Alright, great. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.